Uh-oh, Bravo. Real Housewives of Miami star Alexia Nepola, ex-husband Todd Napola, is speaking out and spilling all of the Bravo tea in his latest Instagram post. And he's also threatening to sue Bravo. Well, I don't think he's threatening. I think it's a promise.
Here we go now.
Welcome back to the Kempire channel, your number one source for pop culture news and music, entertainment, reality TV, and so much more. As always, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you never miss out on breaking news when we go live or when we upload. So it was just this week, we recapped 2 new episodes of The Real Housewives of Miami. And maybe these episodes is what triggered Todd Napola. He's made some comments during the season. As you know, Alexia's storyline is the fact that he filed for divorce, he blindsided her. However, she was still sleeping with him, still hanging out with him, still had hope. Basically, in this week's episode, it seems as if they're still on their way. Todd, in this latest video, basically says the only reason why he kept quiet this long was because he was promised that they were going to correct the wrongs, he claims, during the season, only for him to watch it not be corrected. But what really triggered him was the fact that Peter, Alexia's son, was also dogging him out. So let's get into what Todd had to say on Instagram. Todd, in the caption before we get to the video, says, "Dear RHOM producers, I tried to stay silent, and he says, I truly did. I believe that by stepping back, I was taking the high road, letting you tell your story, even when it was wildly false and deeply manipulated. But enough is enough." He says, "Your lies, bullying, and behind-the-scenes extortion tactics have gone too far. For years, I allowed you to paint a fictional version of me because I loved my wife and I didn't want to get involved in your circus. I thought staying quiet would protect my peace, but you've crossed a line." He says, "Call me names, twist the truth, suggest whatever you want about my character. But the second you dare to portray me as someone who doesn't care about my stepson, a young man living with a brain injury, you revealed who you really are." He says, "This season, it's obvious your entire storyline revolves around attacking me and one woman, a cancer survivor, no less, Guerdy." He says, "You've allowed gang-style pile-ons, physical violence, gaslighting, microaggressions, and racially charged comments to go unchecked. You've enabled cruelty, encouraged hate, and turned mean-spiritedness into entertainment. Hence why a lot of you said that you stopped watching this season after the Julia splashing Guerdy with water in the earlier episodes." Todd continues and he says, "You've enabled cruelty, encouraged hate, and turned mean-spiritedness into entertainment. This is what you promote. This is your brand." He says, "And if this is what you proudly do for a living, I hope your families are proud." Now, oh, damn. He says, "But here's the truth you can't edit out. RHOM has the lowest ratings of any Housewives franchise ever." Oh, he's keeping his ear to the streets. He says, "I now understand that if I don't stand up for myself, you'll never stop. You'll keep running with these lies for as long as you have a platform. While I hoped this would fade and I could quietly return to my private life, it's clear I have to end this story myself. So let me be clear, I will not only challenge these lies, I guarantee I will silence them once and for all. Peace emojis." So here's the thing. You guys, when we were recapping Real Housewives of Miami yesterday, were in the comments saying that Todd went on social media and said that it was a lie that Frankie was there when he moved out of the home. So I didn't think anything of it. I was like, oh, here go Todd again. But I'm glad I actually listened to his video because his video spilled tea. And we're going to listen to all of it because we need to stop and go so that we can weigh in on some of the things. I will give him credit in this caption, him defending Guerdy. No one, not even Andy Cohen. Yes, they recently did an op-ed piece where a producer basically said, Julia was reprimanded. But so many different times it was brought up on Watch What Happens Live, and Andy Cohen said nothing. Isaac Mizrahi went on there and said he was so glad that moment happened. And instead of correcting him, everyone has just sort of gone on. Guerdy did an interview and got emotional, started crying, talking about that because it wasn't funny. I screenshotted you that photo of Guerdy sitting there after that, drenched in water, with her just trying to hold it together. That's not entertainment. And this is why after that, a lot of you said, I'm not watching this anymore. Let's get into what Todd said in the video. So that was just the caption. Let's get into what he says in the video because he spills a lot of tea.
The biggest mistake I've made in my adult life was agreeing to participate in The Real Housewives of Miami. Now, I was not one who really wanted to give up my privacy and become a reality star. That was never for me, and I certainly never enjoyed filming, and I'm sure that's obvious to anyone who ever watched the show. But the final straw, the breaking point, came when lies started being told, and Adriana went on TV and started making claims that I was struggling and couldn't pay my rent and I was having financial problems. And it was a real blow to me, and I couldn't believe people would make these kind of lies up. And I was very mad at her for lying on TV, and she knew it was a lie. And I was mad at Alexia for getting me involved in this mess. But I was the most mad at the producers who knew the story wasn't true. And they didn't just run it, they ran it and reran it and reran it with no regard for me or my feelings or the truth. And in fact, I was the one telling them after the story came out, and I knew that they filmed it, that I had just bought a $24 million shopping center. What was my financial problem?
I want to pause there because we also have to remember during this season, your own wife went on there and talked about fake apartment, fake car. She was also questioning. I'm surprised you didn't come out then. She was also questioning your finances. I'm not saying that it's true or not true, whatever it may be. But it's important to note that a lot of these stories and rumors, we were just talking about this with Stephanie, a lot of these rumors get put out there and they're never corrected, never really addressed. I'm sure the reality personalities want them to be addressed. We don't know what's happening behind the scenes. I'm sure they're speaking to production. Production is like, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. We will correct it. We'll fix it. You just got a bad edit this season. Remember, Jody talked about that too when that whole narrative around the AC and how that was edited. Production said the same thing to him, he said, in his long statement that he put out.
Really didn't care. The show must go on. And they did. The show did go on. And it got to a breaking point where I couldn't take it anymore. And I had to make a very hard decision. I realized I couldn't live in this world anymore. And the woman I loved couldn't live without it. So I had to make a decision to leave. And it was a very...
That stood out to me. The woman I love. Remember, before they got married during the show, but they were together for years before the show. He's basically saying that Alexia chose this show over their marriage. Remember, during the season, Alexia claimed that she was willing to give up the show. He's basically denying that, and I believe her. I believe him. I believe him because you literally see during the season when arguing with Stephanie, Alexia says your relationship can't be that good if you're here, basically on this show. She chose fame and this show over Todd. And I don't know if it's because in her head she was over the relationship. I don't think so, but maybe she's always wanted to be a star.
Tough decision, but it had to be made. I was well aware of the storyline they were creating for Series 7 about the reconciliation, and I agreed that I would go along with that. In return, I was under the impression I was getting some apologies from Adriana, and I was going to be let off the hook, so to speak, and not dragged like past husbands of these kinds of TV shows. So it seemed like a pretty fair deal to me, so I stayed quiet and let it air out. Now, not surprised at all that it didn't play out as I had expected. I see no apologies coming my way. Nobody acknowledging the slander and defamation of character they did to me. I see actually the story getting worse and they're making up stories about how I moved out of the house and left Frankie alone, which none of this is true. It's just for the storyline. And I've stayed quiet. For 18 months, I sat back and stayed quiet out of respect and love to Alexia. But at some point, you're pushing too far. And this is the point. Now, I could understand Alexia bashing me. And I could understand her coworkers doing the same. Even the one I've never met once in my life who seems to be obsessed with me. That's all fine. And I'm not surprised one
He's referring to Stephanie because you know Stephanie's had a lot to say about him on the show. He also questioned her finances in one of those posts a couple of weeks ago.
That the producers are running this because they need a storyline to sell you guys a show. But what did surprise me is that they used Peter to come at me and bash me and say that I don't give a shit about Frankie. Well, now you hit a nerve and now you have my attention and you're going to start getting some responses. That's where you went too far. Now, there is no doubt Alexia is an amazing mother and does everything for Frankie she can. And so does his father, by the way, who never seems to get any credit. This guy works 5 days a week to support himself and spends almost every weekend out with Frankie, taking him out and taking care of him, being a great dad.
And mind you, that's never highlighted on the show. That's never a part of what's been happening. Look, we also know that Frankie's father was out of the picture because he was in jail for a long period of time. But he's right. This is an important detail that we don't know about. We only got a little bit of that, I think, not even last season, the season before, where we see Frankie and was it Frankie that went to the father's house? I can't remember. Yeah, I think it was Frankie and Peter went to the father's house. So we only got a little bit of that last season.
Deserves recognition. However, beyond those two people, there's nobody on planet Earth that's done 1,000th of what I've done for Frankie in the last 7 years. In 7 years' time of living with Frankie, just about every morning we'd wake up together before everybody else and have a coffee and talk. Every afternoon I come home from work and I spend time with Frankie. I didn't just provide for Frankie financially by putting a roof over his head and putting food on his table and designer clothes on his back. I did do that, but I also did a lot more. And to say I didn't give a shit is ridiculous. Let's talk about it. Took him to the movies, took him to the beach, took him to the jacuzzi, took him to the pool, took him on cruises, took him on vacation for weekend getaways. 2, 3, 4 nights a week, Alexia and I would take him to dinner. We would go out on the weekends and we'd take him with us. I would spend so much time with Frankie. I was very involved with getting Frankie trainers for his health. I was very involved with getting Frankie into the Demoya Foundation. I was involved in getting him all sorts of speech therapists and anything I could do to make this guy's life better.
That's important to know. And I don't want to bash Alexia, but honestly, based on what we saw in that season, that first season when they returned in the reboot, and he was talking about Frankie needs more assistance, Frankie needs to be able to be a little bit more independent. Based on how Alexia has raised Peter and how Peter, we were just talking about this last week during the recap, saying that Peter is not a real man. Peter has not really stepped up to the plate. Peter is not a mature adult at his big age, has not really stepped up. And that's because of Alexia. Alexia was still babying him. The scene that we saw with Peter recently, she was babying. You've been through a lot. He hasn't been through a lot. He beat up an unhoused man. He still has not gotten his life together. He talks about that in this as well. But he was trying. He was definitely trying. Look, we could say what we want about Todd. Todd is not a perfect human being, but I believe him when he says that he was a good stepfather to Frankie. Especially because when did Frankie's biological father come out of prison? That was recent. So he's been in Frankie's life a long time, 7 years.
I was all for it. And that's why it really hurts that someone's going to come at me and say that I didn't give a shit about him, because I'm going to tell you, there's not a person on planet Earth who's done as much for him other than his parents as me. And that's how I love Frankie. And you know what? Because I love Frankie, I'm going to speak up, because Frankie would want me to, because he knows this isn't true. Now, I really have no problem with Peter. In fact, after Alexia and I split up, I reached out to Peter and I told him how bad I felt how things went between us and the pressures that he and I had to deal with. And I told him how bad I felt that I was never able to help him launch a career and get started with a job and get his life on track. And I felt bad for all the pressure the guy had. And I made it very clear, that's my failure more than his. And I told him I would always be there for him, regardless of whether he wanted my help and regardless of my position with his mom. And I always stand by that, and I will always stand by that. But today I feel bad for Peter, because the producers used him again. You see, they convinced him to go and tell the story for their ratings, and he knows better than anyone, when they got something on you, they put it up against you. Except what Peter probably doesn't know, and why he probably had to do this, is because thanks to me, I'm the one who convinced Alexia to negotiate a deal for Peter and Frankie to get paid. That's why they get paid. And that's why I probably believe Peter had to do it, for the paycheck. So I kind of understand that I'm not mad at him all. And my offer to always be there for him will always stand. Peter shouldn't be calling me out on TV. Peter should be thanking those that are helping take care of Frankie, like me. That's the truth. Even after the divorce, I continued to support Alexia and Frankie, paid the rent. She used my Amex to the tune of tens of thousands of dollars a month. That's what I did. And in fact, the house they live in, where you live as well, Peter, I pay the rent on that house.
Pause. That was T. So that house that she shows that she moved into, Todd is paying for that. And Todd is paying for Peter's lifestyle too. And we know in Miami, it's not cheap to live. So he's paying for that too. I mean, he can't be that broke if he's paying all these different people's rents. Washington, D.C., I will be bringing the Kempire After Dark, the villain era, to your city in less than a week. The countdown has officially begun. I'll be in your city. I don't care what's going on down there. We're going to talk about the hot topics. I have so much tea to spill, especially this exclusive story that I'm telling there first. I haven't told anyone else, but I will be telling you, the audience, directly. All right. And then New York City, you're up right after that. We're going to round out the Kempire After Dark summer tour in New York City on September 12th. Go get your tickets today. That show, all the shows have meet and greets, but that show has a live stream option. So no matter where you are in the world, you will be able to be a part of the Kempire After Dark live experience in New York City. Go get your tickets today, but you have to get your tickets before September 12th. And you'll have that live stream for a week. Buy your tickets today. More information on that will be available in the description. I'll see you guys soon.
Even after the show came out and I was so hurt and I couldn't believe this was going to happen to me again, and I saw the first episode, I still continued to pay these bills. That's who I am and that's what I did. And it doesn't seem fair that you're going to come for me now. You should be thanking me instead. With all that said, I still feel bad for him because the producers got the best of him and he knows it and I know it and there's no hard feelings there. But you did change the storyline for me. Now I have to speak up. You see, there's been hundreds of podcasters and news media articles that wanted to write stories and they wanted my side of the story and I stayed quiet. But I can't sit back and let you create this narrative that I just didn't give a shit about Frankie. Not only do I love Frankie, I love myself too, and I'm not going to let you and the producers do this to me. So no hard feelings, but I'm going to have to start talking as well. And even as I sit here today, I'm still heartbroken about the fact that Alexia never told me this was going to happen to me and that she allowed this to happen. And worse yet, she and I actually did reconcile in January of this year after the show filmed, and we were together and doing great for months. And she never said a word about anything coming my way.
That is pretty foul. And this is why I said Alexia has chosen this show over a real relationship. For me, that says a lot about the toxic cycle of being on reality television, being in the Bravo universe. You chose the love of it. You think I would choose fame and stardom? Because that Bravo check ain't that much, especially if this man is buying $1 million property. You chose that over love, comfortability, and someone that actually embraces your sons and is willing to pay for your grown-ass son that needs to be paying for his own bills, but he wants to also help him and make him an upstanding individual. You chose this Bravo check that's not even stable over that. That already tells me your priorities, Alexia, are screwed up. And no wonder why your son, Peter's, priorities are screwed up. And why you've made the decisions that you've made in your life. That's crazy to me.
Since then, I've never heard an I'm sorry, never got a text, nothing. It's just too bad, so sad. And while I'm never going to try and win over any viewers because I truthfully don't care about that, I do want to tell my side of the story. And I am going to go out there and do it so the viewers know I didn't leave Frankie home alone and it wasn't this crazy situation where he was so distraught on the couch. And I'm not this horrible person they make me out to be. But at the end of the day, I have to stand up for myself. And what we'll do is I'll tell my side of the story and Bravo can tell their side of the story. And you, the viewers, will get to judge what you believe and what you don't believe. Like I said, I'm not trying to win anybody over, but I am trying to tell a side of the story. You'll get to be the judge and jury. Now, for the producers, there's a totally different story I have for you guys. These producers, they like to sit in their editing rooms and production rooms and hide behind the cameras, and they'll drag anybody. And all you got to do is look at the past husbands and boyfriends of this show. They have no regard for anyone, as if we don't have families, friends, lives, careers. It just doesn't matter as long as they're making a show. And they hide in private, and they could care less about the truth. They just want to make a show. And if you confront them, they say, you got a bad edit, I'm sorry. Well, that's not going to cut it anymore, because these producers know the secrets are coming out, that you have people on these shows hiring private investigators to dig up dirt on other castmates to ruin them. They're hiring PR companies and social media bot accounts to hurt people with no regard for them whatsoever. These people.
Pause. So he's confirming what Dr. Nicole was saying about, allegedly, I'll say, Marisol, about hiring the private eye. But she's not the first. He's also talking about these housewives hiring bots and things like that. Don't forget, he's had pillow talk with Alexia, who talks to these other housewives. That should be against the law, first of all. But that should also be against practices over there at Bravo. They have not, all they will do is send out an email and be like, this has to stop. This cannot happen any further. No, you guys need to do more than that. But okay. And I say this is the same company that handled the Brit Edie and the Kenya situation the way that they did.
People have script writers to give them, witty one-liners so they seem so good and they could turn the direction of themselves and make themselves look fantastic.
Look, we've been telling y'all that for a long time, and he's just confirming what we've been saying, that a lot of these housewives that you think are so damn witty, but if you see them on a YouTube channel, they're not so witty. And I'm not talking about Nene, because Nene is witty. I'm not saying that Nene hasn't been given lines over the years too, possibly, but you can see when someone is not so like on top of it. A lot of these housewives are fished some of the confessional stuff that they say.
You know about this, and you guys hide in the private room and you don't get exposed. Well, that's going to change, because all these things you've been doing to the cast, how are you going to like it if I expose you? How are you going to like it if these things are done to you and I draw you out into the public? How is it going to feel when you're getting questioned by the public on the way you behave? Let's see. But the difference is for you guys, and the difference is for people like Adriana, who slandered my name and who made up all these lies and thought it was fun and clever, and the producers who thought they could edit it and rerun it and rerun it and rerun it and keep showing it and keep talking about it and there'd be no consequences. And for the producers who really didn't even have a right to have me on TV for season 6, you're going to have a different crowd that I want to perform for, so to speak. You're going to have a courtroom to perform in, and you're not going to have to convince the public. You're going to have to convince a real judge and a real jury if you had the right to use me on TV and lie about me on TV when you knew it was a lie. Let's see where we go with this, because for all the people you've dragged with no regard for them whatsoever, past and present people on the show, I'm the guy with the reputation. I'm the guy with the resume in life. And I know you've been digging up as much dirt as you can. Doesn't seem like you found so much. But
I'm just going to say this. I understand, Alexia. I understand why you kept on going back. This is BDE energy right here. BDE. Okay, Todd.
I'm also the guy with the resources to take you guys down. So you found this game very clever. You wanted to get the ratings and you wanted to get your season launched. So good for you, you did. Except now I'm going to speak up and I'm going to take your asses to court and we'll find out if you had a legal right to do it. And you know what? You said it. You replayed it. Now you better prove it. And if you can't prove it, you're going to pay me. And I think I'm going to take all that money I'm going to win, and I'm going to win a lot of money. And when I do, I'm going to give it to groups that work with people that are bullied, cyberbullied, bullied in person, attacked online by people like you who hide in these rooms and destroy lives, destroy families. You're not good people. And just face it, I sit here and say that. For the viewers, you could question me, but over the, 15 years of the show, you call it a guilty pleasure to watch it. But would you ever participate in it? Would a sane person ever expose their lives? For what? To go to BravoCon and have people tell you they love you? Bullshit. You wouldn't do it either. And the past performance of this show, look at where these families have wound up in. Tons of divorces, people in jail, miserable lives. I mean, it's just created no happiness and no joy for Earth other than a guilty pleasure. So you could enjoy watching it, but for the participants, I think you got to get your heads checked. And for the producers who produce it and hide in the rooms, I'm coming for you.
He said he is coming for you. I got a little bit of a chill. Well, good for him. Because, look, how many times do we have to have someone say the same thing before we start to believe it? And I know the Bravo universe, when they've heard it from other housewives that are no longer on the show, oh, you knew what you signed up for, blah, 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 blah. This is still a work environment. I've been saying this since the reality TV reckoning. This is still a work environment. Normalizing things like this is not acceptable in a work environment. And you may have just messed with the wrong one, because he's basically saying he's not afraid of discovery. So any questions about his businesses or business dealings or his finances, all of that will come up. And it sounds like he's ready to put his what on the table and prove to you he's got it. And if he's paying for Alexia's lifestyle, because he's talked about that recently, that he's paying thousands and thousands of dollars for her lifestyle. And we've seen the gifts that he's gotten her too when he was on the show. And he's paying for Peter's lifestyle as well. The only money that might be funny is going to be Alexia's once he decides to cut her off. And I'm sure he's probably decided to cut her off now. The only reason why he probably hasn't cut her off is because of Frankie. I have to say, this video, this is probably like my 4th time watching this video. He spilled a lot of tea. I'm just going to sit and wait for the lawsuit to be filed, because it sounds as if he is not playing and he is dead serious. Guys, I want to know your reaction to what Todd had to say in regards to how he's been portrayed on the show. Do you believe him or do you believe Alexia? I believe him. If I'm going to be honest with you guys, I believe him. It makes complete sense to me. We've seen what Alexia has said and done during the season. A lot of her moments crying about Todd, a lot of you said has felt fake and forced. Now we're understanding that it was fake, that she has chosen, bravo, this job that doesn't even pay a lot. That's not even a guarantee. She's chosen this over love and security. She's chosen that for this bravo check, which goes back to the narcissist party that they had this season and her saying, I am too much of an empath to be a narcissist. No, homegirl, you are a narcissist. You are the one that wants to be the star. You told on yourself a long time ago. And the reason why you and Marisol are close friends is because Marisol will do anything and anything for that mojito as well. And now that he's probably going to cut you off, you're going to do anything and everything in order to stay on this show. Because now you've decided this check and this show is more important than someone that you actually loved. You can't be a Taurus because we don't move like that. Oh, but he is a Scorpio and he gonna get you. You done pissed off a Scorpio and he is going to get you. Sometimes I wonder, like, are you really a Taurus? Her and Teresa. We can't be that dumb when it comes to love, especially when someone that actually might be good for you. And it looks like he's owning up to whatever went wrong in their relationship. But it sounds like what went wrong in their relationship was the show. Because that's when this relationship broke up. They were together for years before coming on the show and then getting married. I really thought what broke down their relationship was the fact that they got married. You know, sometimes when people get married, sometimes expectations, things change. But it sounds like it was more so Alexia choosing the show over everything, including her relationship with Todd. Guys, let's continue this conversation in the comment section. I want to know your thoughts on what Todd Napola had to say about the Real Housewives of Miami, behind the scenes, production, threatening a lawsuit, and more. As always, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you never miss out on breaking news when we go live or when we upload. Thanks for watching.
Here we go now.